A massive, mysterious pyramid-like structure is currently being unearthed in Israel. The press release for this discovery said, quote, "What we have here is one of the richest, most intriguing archaeological excavations ever found in the Judean Desert." So, what is this thing? Danny the Digger Herman joins us now from Israel. Danny, set the scene. Where is this and how do they even come across it?
Well, it's a really surprising location to start with because it's almost like in the middle of nowhere. It's facing the southern end of the Dead Sea, and it's along a road that goes down from the Beersheba Valley to bypass the Dead Sea in order to continue into Transjordan. This is a significant strategic road that is already mentioned in the Old Testament. There's actually a great story in the Old Testament about the Israelites going to campaign against the Edomites. There was lack of rain and they were very concerned, and so the prophet prayed, and all of a sudden there was such a storm that he nearly drowned in the flash floods. But we know also before this excavation that the Romans considered this road to be significant. They put a military post at the bottom of this ascent. And we do know also of the Mamluks, or like in the Middle Ages, of some road station in this area. So it's always played an important role. And also today, by the way, the main road going from Beersheba to the hotels of the Dead Sea, it passes nearby.
So let me read a quote from Eli Escuzito, the director of the Israel Antiquities Authority. Quote, "The Judean Desert Survey is one of the most important archaeological operations ever undertaken in the state of Israel's history. The discoveries are exciting and even emotional, and their significance for archaeological and historical research is enormous." All right, Danny, what could this thing be?
It's a very interesting question. It's a very good question. The way we can examine archaeological discoveries is by doing what's called comparative analysis. And the problem with this specific structure, at least in Israel, there's almost no parallel. I know of only two other places where we have pyramid shaped structures in the Holy Land that are ancient, meaning they're not necessarily from this exact same time frame, but they're from this general time span. One is the famous tomb carved all the way from bedrock facing the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. It is known as the tomb of Zachariah, although it's probably not his tomb. It's just a tradition to ascribe it to Zachariah. But it was probably a tomb of some priest, maybe even high priest. And it shows how the Jews around the time of Jesus were influenced by Egyptian style as much as Roman style, as much as Nabatean style, and so on. We were very eclectic in that sense. But there is another less known pyramidical structure uncovered just a few years ago in the Shvila, in the low hill countryside between the Jerusalem mountains and the coast. While the tomb of Zechariah is clearly a mausoleum, it's a tomb, the structure found in the low hill Judean countryside is also a mystery. Is it another tomb mark, or maybe a road mark, or some other function? And here comes this very mysterious additional pyramid, which is in the middle of nowhere. No one lived in that area. The only thing that was significant about that specific area is the route that enabled you to cross from what was then in Roman times, from the Provincia Judea, the province of the Jews, to the land of the Nabateans, or later to Provincia Felixia Arabia. So I tend to think that this is some sort of a road mark, but it's not Roman. And this is what makes it so intriguing. It's from the less known archaeologically period of the Hellenistic times, which is the period that the Seleucids and the Ptolemies were fighting one another, and eventually the Jews took the opportunity and created the Maccabean kingdom. So here's the question. Is it Seleucid? Is it Ptolemaic? Maybe it's Edomite. Maybe it's Judean, Maccabean.
We're obviously going to have you back on to unpack further discoveries. The excavation is happening now. So I'm sure whenever we get more information, we'll have you, Danny, back on to to fill us in. But while I have you, just because I have the Danny the Digger Herman, and the big international news is what's potentially underneath the pyramids of Giza. We're talking about pyramids. I know you're not an Egyptologist, but just
Yeah.
your 30,000 foot reaction to the news coming out of Egypt.
Yeah, pyramids are trending right now in archaeological research, and not just in the Holy Land, but also in Egypt. When we thought we know everything already about the pyramids, this new Italian expedition has reported that it didn't really excavate there. It just made ground penetrating radar survey, which suggests to have some big underground columns right beneath the pyramids, like it's to stabilize it against earthquakes or something. I mean, I'm thinking in modern terms. I don't
Right.
know what they had in mind when they decided to plant this underground before building the pyramids. Who knows? I can only say that the Egyptians in general were all obsessed about the afterlife. The pyramids, mummification, it's all about afterlife. So maybe this is a new component of a belief of afterlife that we are being introduced with.
Well, years ago, you and I did a segment at Rujam El Hiri up in the Golan Heights, which, people talk about being the land of Bashan, the land of giants. So maybe there's some funny business going on with maybe our full understanding of ancient history and ancient archaeology. So the next time news breaks, we're going to have you, Danny the Digger Herman, back on to tell us all about it. So, Danny, toda rabah, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Lito.